The mountains stand tall, ancient and stoic. They rise like silent sentinels, guardians of a land rich in history and culture. They have witnessed empires rise and fall. From the ancient Mesopotamian civilizations to the Ottoman Empire, these mountains have seen it all. They have borne witness to the footsteps of conquerors and the dreams of the oppressed. Every path tells a story, every stone a memory. These are the mountains of Kurdistan, a land of breathtaking beauty and profound resilience, a land carved from stone and spirit. The rugged terrain mirrors the unyielding nature of its people, a land where the Kurdish people have endured, their identity interwoven with the rugged terrain. Their homes, built with their own hands, stand as symbols of their perseverance. For centuries, they have fought for recognition, for autonomy, for the fundamental right to exist as a people. Their struggle is not just for land, but for the preservation of their culture and heritage. Theirs is a story of resilience, etched in the very soul of the mountains themselves. Each generation has carried the torch of resistance, refusing to let their spirit be broken. The Kurds are an ancient people, with a rich culture and a history spanning millennia. Their dances, music and art are vibrant expressions of their enduring spirit. Yet they have been denied a homeland of their own. Despite their deep connection to the land, political boundaries have divided them. Divided across Turkey, Iran, Iraq and Syria, they have faced relentless attempts at assimilation and suppression. Each country has tried to erase their identity, but the Kurds have resisted. They have faced relentless attempts at assimilation and suppression. Their protests have been met with violence, their voices silenced. The Kurdish language was banned. Their traditions were marginalized, yet they found ways to keep their culture alive, in secret and in defiance. Their very existence was challenged, but they stood firm, refusing to be erased from history. But the spirit of the Kurds, much like the mountains they call home, proved unbreakable. Their determination is as solid as the rocks that form their homeland. Through generations, the desire for freedom was kept alive. Grandparents told stories of resistance. Parents taught their children the Kurdish language and traditions. Passed down through stories whispered around fires, these tales of bravery and hope became the bedrock of their identity. Through songs sung in hushed tones, their history and dreams were kept alive. Music became a form of resistance, a way to remember and to hope, through the unwavering belief in a brighter future. The youth, with their hopeful eyes, carry forward the legacy of their ancestors. The mountains bore witness to their struggle. Silent yet powerful, they stand as a testament to the enduring spirit of the Kurds. A silent testament to the enduring spirit of a people determined to be heard, to be recognized, to be free. The Kurdish flag, waving proudly, symbolizes their unyielding quest for freedom and identity. In the heart of this struggle, a figure emerged, a beacon of hope for many Kurds who had long suffered under oppressive regimes. This figure was a young man named Abdullah Öcalan, born in the small village of Ömerli in 1948. His early years were spent in a region where the Kurdish identity was systematically suppressed. Öcalan's early life was marked by the harsh realities of Kurdish oppression. Growing up, he saw his people being marginalized, their language and culture being stifled by the Turkish state. He witnessed firsthand the systematic discrimination and violence inflicted upon his people. These experiences ignited a fire within him, a burning desire to fight for justice and equality. Driven by this desire, Öcalan immersed himself in political activism while studying political science at Ankara University. It was here that he began to form his revolutionary ideas. He sought answers in the writings of Marx, Lenin, and other revolutionary thinkers. These texts provided him with a framework to understand the oppression of his people and a blueprint for their liberation. He saw in their ideologies a path to liberation, not just for the Kurds, but for all oppressed people around the world. This global perspective shaped his vision for the future. In 1978, in the midst of political turmoil and growing discontent, Öcalan, along with a small group of like-minded Kurdish students, founded the Kurdistan Workers Party, or PKK. This was a pivotal moment in the Kurdish struggle. Their goal was clear: to achieve an independent Kurdish state through armed struggle. They believed that only through force could they achieve their aims. The PKK's ideology was a blend of Marxism-Leninism and Kurdish nationalism. They sought to combine the fight for national liberation with a broader social revolution. They called for a socialist revolution that would overthrow the capitalist system they believed was responsible for Kurdish oppression. This radical vision attracted many young Kurds who were disillusioned with the status quo. Öcalan, with his charisma and radical vision, quickly rose to prominence within the organization, becoming its undisputed leader. Known to his followers as Apo, the Kurdish word for uncle, a term of endearment and respect, he inspired a generation of Kurds to join the struggle for their rights and freedom. His leadership would shape the course of the Kurdish resistance for decades to come. Under Öcalan's leadership, the PKK grew from a small group of idealistic students into a formidable force. They established training camps in the mountains where they prepared for their armed struggle against the Turkish state. The PKK's early operations were marked by a series of bold attacks that captured the attention of the world. These actions brought international awareness to the Kurdish cause and highlighted the plight of the Kurdish people. The PKK's struggle resonated with oppressed people around the world, and they received support from various international solidarity movements. This global support bolstered their resolve and provided them with much-needed resources. Despite facing immense challenges, including Öcalan's eventual capture and imprisonment, the PKK continued to fight for their cause. Öcalan's imprisonment only strengthened their resolve, as he remained a symbol of resistance and hope for the Kurdish people. Today, the legacy of Abdullah Öcalan and the PKK lives on. Their struggle has inspired a new generation of Kurds to continue the fight for their rights and freedom. The dream of an independent Kurdish state remains alive, fueled by the enduring spirit of resistance that Öcalan ignited all those years ago. The PKK's early years were marked by clandestine meetings, recruitment drives in rural villages, and the slow, painstaking process of building a guerrilla force. Turkey, grappling with its own internal political strife, initially underestimated the nascent organization. They dismissed them as a minor nuisance, a band of disgruntled youths with no real threat. They were wrong. On August 15, 1984, the PKK launched its first major attack. They struck military and police posts in the southeastern Turkish city of Eru. It was a carefully coordinated assault intended to announce their presence to the world and to signal the beginning of their armed struggle. The response from the Turkish government was swift and brutal. Martial law was declared in the predominantly Kurdish southeast. A massive military operation was launched to crush the PKK. The Turkish military, armed with superior firepower and driven by a deep-seated fear of Kurdish separatism, descended upon the region with unrelenting force. The conflict had begun. The Turkish military's response to the PKK's insurgency was characterized by a scorched earth policy. This strategy aimed to eliminate any support base for the PKK by targeting not just the fighters, but also the civilian infrastructure that might aid them. Villages suspected of harboring PKK fighters were razed to the ground. Entire communities were uprooted, their homes reduced to rubble, and their livelihoods destroyed in a matter of hours. Thousands of Kurdish civilians were forcibly displaced from their homes, their lands confiscated. These people, who had lived in these regions for generations, suddenly found themselves homeless and destitute, wandering in search of safety and shelter. Torture, extrajudicial killings and disappearances became commonplace. The Turkish military and security forces were accused of committing severe human rights abuses, with many Kurds detained without trial, subjected to brutal interrogations, and often never seen again. The Turkish government justified its actions as necessary to combat terrorism. They argued that the PKK's violent tactics left them no choice but to respond with overwhelming force to protect the integrity of the state and the safety of its citizens. They accused the PKK of atrocities against Turkish civilians, of ethnic cleansing, of attempting to tear apart the very fabric of the Turkish state. The narrative painted the PKK as a ruthless terrorist organization, responsible for bombings, kidnappings and assassinations. The PKK, in turn, accused Turkey of waging a war against the Kurdish people, of attempting to erase their culture and identity. They claimed that the Turkish state's policies were aimed at suppressing Kurdish political aspirations and cultural expression. Caught in the crossfire were innocent Kurdish civilians. These people, who had no part in the conflict, suffered the most, losing their homes, their loved ones, and their sense of security. They found themselves trapped between the hammer and the anvil, accused of siding with the PKK by the Turkish government and viewed with suspicion by some within their own communities. The conflict escalated, with each side becoming more entrenched in their positions and the violence showing no signs of abating. The mountains, once a sanctuary for the Kurdish people, became a battleground. The rugged terrain, which had provided refuge and a sense of identity, now echoed with the sounds of gunfire and explosions, blood soaked into the soil, adding another layer to the land's tragic history. The conflict left deep